My mom tapped her glass and declared, "Certain grandchildren have truly deserved their spot here." She shot a quick look at my 9-year-old and gave a sly grin. The whole room burst into laughter, except my husband. He tapped his glass in return and responded with this. The atmosphere turned icy in an instant. Holidays at my mom's place always seemed less like celebrations and more like a quiet rivalry. Every year, she put on what she grandly called the family feast, filled with subtle digs about who was succeeding and who was just getting by. This time, I sensed trouble the moment we arrived. My husband, Evan, gripped my hand tightly as we crossed the threshold. Our daughter Sophie, only 9, had practiced a short holiday poem she'd created for her grandma all week. She was bursting with pride and had even drawn a picture to accompany it. He hoped it would make the evening memorable. All I hoped was to make it through unscathed. It didn't take long to realize the evening's direction. The living room resembled a high-end catalog display, pristine white sofas forbidden to touch, artificial candles glowing like a magazine spread, and an enormous tree adorned in metallic tones. Sophie entered clutching her artwork with wide eyes, but my mom barely noticed before hurrying to welcome my sister Vanessa, who had just pulled up. Vanessa's boys arrived in coordinated jackets and presented jars of homemade relish with custom tags. Mom treated them as if they were royalty. She showered them with praise. When Sophie attempted once more to offer her handmade gift, Mom instructed her to place it beneath the tree for later. The meal was noisy, the drinks plentiful, and the veiled insults plentiful too. Mom circled the table, updating everyone on recent successes, which really meant highlighting achievements while noting absences. Vanessa's children had triumphed in a tech contest. Her spouse landed a major advancement. They'd reserved a trip across Europe. She described it all as if the victories were hers. Then the toast arrived. Glasses had just been refilled. Mom rose, lifted hers with dramatic flair, and beamed. "Certain grandchildren have truly deserved their spot here," she said, locking eyes on Sophie with that same sly grin. The chuckles weren't boisterous. They were subtle nods, quiet snickers, and knowing looks, as if sharing a private jest. Vanessa didn't chuckle, but her smile was the forced one she wore when ignoring something nasty. One of her boys nudged the other, and I watched Sophie lower her gaze to her food. I froze. My mouth felt parched. I glanced at Evan. He lifted his glass, tapped it gently, and said, "Some grown-ups have earned their spot in our lives." The room went dead quiet. It was as if the lights dimmed. My aunt stared at her hands. Vanessa tensed. Dad simply stared at his plate as if he'd lost his appetite. Evan rose. He met my eyes, then Sophie's, and announced it was time to leave. "Just like that?" Mom asked. "You're walking out?" We ignored her. I helped Sophie with her jacket. Her artwork remained in her lap, untouched. I slipped it into my purse. As we headed out, I caught Mom whispering something about our oversensitivity and how it might explain Sophie's challenges. Then the shouting began. "You can't abandon family on Christmas. This is absurd." Evan swung open the door, letting in the chilly breeze. Snow had started falling. As we approached the car, the door opened behind us. Mom had chased us out barefoot, arms folded against the cold. "You're not cutting ties over a simple remark. Act your age." She glanced around as if expecting an audience. We didn't look back. Evan helped Sophie into the car, then me. Driving away, I checked the mirror. She stood there still, hugging herself, looking bewildered. The ride home was quiet. Sophie dozed in the rear. At home, I pulled out her drawing, a basic holiday tree with simple figures of us three, all smiling. Above it, she had written, "My favorite people." That marked our final Christmas at Mom's. But the story didn't stop there. The quiet didn't hold. Before we unpacked, the calls flooded in. Mom, Dad, Vanessa, one by one. At first, messages pretending worry, hoping we arrived safely, checking on Sophie. Then the blame. Then the snide texts. Vanessa finally texted, "Feeling good about yourselves? Worth the scene." I ignored them all, but Evan was already planning next steps. 2 days later, as others lounged in holiday mode or exchanged returns, he called an urgent board session at work. No details, just required presence. My parents showed up puzzled. Dad seemed relaxed, likely thinking it involved taxes. Mom wore her power outfit, ready to advise. Vanessa joined despite having no role in the company, she just enjoyed the spotlight. In the meeting room, Evan distributed thick packets of formal documents. It was a complete buyout notice. We were removing them from the business immediately, no discussion. Dad flipped through like it was a joke. Mom didn't even open hers, just glared. Evan stated plainly, their treatment of Sophie was mean, immature, and telling. If they saw their own granddaughter as a punchline, they couldn't share in what we built for her. Dad claimed it was personal, unrelated to work. Evan countered, the company is our family's future, and those who mock a child publicly don't deserve its rewards. Mom asked if this was truly over one remark. She insisted we were exaggerating, misinterpreting. Then she claimed no ill intent. Evan replied without glancing, "You intended every word." Tensions escalated. Dad questioned the law. Mom warned of image damage. Vanessa interjected, claiming it was a domestic spat, that we were childish. Evan rose again. The filings were done. Lawyers knew. They could sign gracefully or face court. Dad exploded, calling it disloyalty. Mom stayed seated. Vanessa turned condescending, saying we'd lost sight and involved Sophie. Unfairly. Evan warned, leave in 2 minutes or security would escort. No one anticipated that tone from him. They complied. Mom banged the door. Dad grumbled we'd regret it. Vanessa called us crazy as she left. The quiet after was profound. At home, Sophie played with blocks, constructing a fortress. She asked for pancakes for supper. Evan grinned, of course. Her artwork hung on the fridge, the one Mom ignored. I lingered in the kitchen, gazing at it. That gathering shifted everything. For us and them. Weeks of odd tranquility followed. No contact, no visits. It seemed they retreated to plan. I wondered if they reflected. Evan doubted it, more like a gathering storm. He was correct. It began quietly. A relative shared photos from a party we weren't told about. Everyone attended except us. Sophie excluded. The setup mirrored Sophie's recent birthday exactly, Mom had replicated it all. Caption, family shows up. That evening, Sophie wondered if she'd upset someone. I assured her no, but struggled to explain sudden invisibility. During dinner, Evan's phone pinged, an old colleague asking if Dad still claimed board ties at a club event. Evan seethed quietly while serving Sophie veggies. That ended it. He instructed lawyers to ban any business association claims. 48 hours to comply or sue. Then Vanessa appeared on a Saturday. We were tidying laundry. Sophie drew upstairs. She barged in uninvited. No greetings. She said our parents suffered, Dad shamed, Mom wept nightly, we'd stolen their security. Then she shifted, we sheltered Sophie too much, she needed relatives. She threw terms like harmful, neglect, trauma. Then she aired. She told Evan, admit it, this is your ego. You've always resented your background, Evan stated calmly, this was her last visit. Future ones would be trespassing. She scoffed, doubting police involvement. He held the door open. She departed, warning the family would abandon us. She was right. Invites vanished, parties, showers, gatherings. We vanished from chats. Sophie faded from mentions. Cousins unfollowed or blocked. Mom told others we left. Dad painted Evan as controlling. Vanessa spread tales. None of it mattered. We had honesty. We rejected cruelty masked as custom. We didn't judge or belittle. It stung, especially Sophie. Easter without contact, she asked if Grandma hated her. I explained Grandma loved only perfection. Sophie said she didn't want that. I embraced her longer. By summer, they adapted. Dad consulted. Mom sold online. They survived. Once secure, they showed no longing, just a desire to triumph. Unable to reclaim us, they erased us. By autumn, total exclusion. No events, no greetings, no newsletters. We became invisible. Oddly, I accepted it. Sophie flourished. Evan and I grew closer. Life felt serene. Then my brother Jake arrived. He'd always avoided conflicts, living distant. Late November, he appeared worn, coffee in hand, needing to speak. Vanessa plotted a lawsuit for distress and damage, pulling parents in. Evan expected it. Jake confessed he wanted escape too. Vanessa lived with parents, spent their funds, altered facts, and contacted clients falsely. Evan acted fast. Letters sent. Warnings issued. Vanessa isolated legally. Mom left pleading messages, Vanessa meant no ill. No reply. Jake stayed briefly, admitting I was truthful, not dramatic. Then he left the family forever. December brought quiet again. But tense. Vanessa's silence signaled unfinished business. The climax came at Mom's annual charity ball. A key client sponsored, so we attended for business. The climax came at Mom's annual charity ball. A key client sponsored, so we attended for business. Entering felt ghostly. Mom laughed loudly in silver. Dad stood rigid. Vanessa in red, like a signal. We stayed professional, talking only to our contact. He asked about whispers, Evan resigning ill, finances failing. Vanessa's rumors. Evan clarified calmly. Our final appearance there. January, parents sold our childhood home. Downsized. Funds dwindled. Vanessa's plans failed. Reports came in. Lawyers vanished. Her fundraiser ended. She confronted me at work once more, blaming me for ruin, threatening regret. Evan directed her out or police. She vanished. Parents cut us off fully. No recognition of milestones. I realized it was revenge for our departure. A year of silence passed. Sophie's 10th birthday, no call. She didn't mind. I released fully. No apology came. But we found calm. Our home is peaceful. Sophie excels. Evan and I are solid. They removed us from their tale. We crafted our own and created something better.